The research ship Horizon drifted silently through the outer edges of human space. The ship was not large or impressive. It had been built for science, not war. Its hull was marked with small dents from space debris, and its once bright paint had faded after 3 years away from Earth. Commander Ellie Mason sat at her station on the bridge, her eyes heavy from another long shift. The screens in front of her showed the same readings they always did: empty space, distant stars, and the occasional asteroid. Nothing new. Nothing interesting. "Another boring day in paradise," said Lieutenant Joe Harris, stretching in his chair, at the navigation console. Ellie smiled but said nothing. After 3 years searching for signs of alien life, even boring was becoming hard to bear. The Horizon had visited 27 star systems, collected thousands of samples, and found nothing but rocks, gas, and more rocks. 10 minutes until shift change, announced the ship's computer in its flat, emotionless voice. Ellie tapped through her final checks, eager to get some sleep. That's when she heard it. A soft, rhythmic beeping from her console, a sound she had never heard before. "What is that?" Joe asked, suddenly alert. Ellie's fingers moved quickly over her screen. It's a signal. Not one of ours." The beeping continued, steady and persistent. Ellie felt her heart beating faster. After years of silence, something was calling to them from the darkness of space. "Get the captain," she ordered, her voice barely above a whisper. 5 minutes later, Captain Alan Richards stood on the bridge, his gray eyes fixed on the main screen where the signal pattern was displayed as a pulsing wave. "Origin?" he asked. "System J9471, replied Communications Officer Daniel Wright. "It's not on our planned route. About 2 light years from our current position." The captain nodded slowly. "And you're certain it's not human?" "Yes, sir," Ellie confirmed. "The pattern doesn't match any known human communication protocol, and there are no registered ships or colonies in that system." The bridge fell silent as the reality sank in. This was what they had been searching for. Proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. "Can we decode it?" the captain asked. Daniel shook his head. "Not yet. But there's something else, sir. The signal. It's repeating in a specific pattern that suggests it's artificial, and it has all the markers of a distress call." "A distress call," the captain repeated slowly. "From someone we've never met." Science Officer Paul Green spoke up from his station. "Sir, if this is a distress call from an alien civilization, we have a duty to investigate. The first contact protocols are clear on this point." Captain Richards paced the small bridge. The Horizon wasn't built for rescue missions. Its crew were scientists, not soldiers or emergency responders. But they were also human, and humans didn't ignore cries for help. "Plot a course for System J9471, he ordered finally. "Maximum safe speed." The ship hummed to life as the engines powered up to their fullest capacity. The Horizon turned slowly, then accelerated toward the source of the mysterious signal, Rite. 3 days they traveled in tense silence. Daniel worked around the clock trying to decode the alien message. By the second day, he had made a breakthrough. "It's not just a simple distress beacon," he reported to the gathered senior staff. "There's data embedded in the signal, lots of it. I've managed to extract some visual information." He tapped his tablet, and the meeting room's main screen flickered to life. The images that appeared made everyone fall silent. They showed a planet, with blue oceans and green continents not unlike Earth, but parts of the planet were scarred with massive black patches. The next images showed cities, strange structures of crystal and metal, beautiful in their alien design. Then came the images of destruction, those same cities in flames, buildings crumbling, and in the sky above them, dark ships of immense size. "They're under attack," Ellie whispered. The final part of the message translates roughly to, "Help us." "They are coming," Daniel added quietly. Captain Richards leaned forward, his face grave. "Coming from where? Coming when?" "Unknown, sir," Daniel replied. "But given the urgency of the message and the fact that it's being broadcast on all frequencies, I'd say whatever is happening there is happening now." The captain stood up. We need to report this to Earth Command immediately. Prepare all our data for transmission. The horizon was too far from Earth for real-time communication. Their message would take days to reach home, and any response would take just as long to return. "Sir," said Ellie, "by the time Earth responds, it might be too late for whoever sent this." "I know," the captain replied grimly, "but we're a research vessel with a crew of 42 and minimal defensive capabilities. If those images show what we think they do, then we're looking at a civilization under assault by a technologically advanced hostile force. What exactly do you propose we do, Commander?" Ellie had no answer. The horizon was a tiny spark of human presence in an enormous dark universe. They couldn't fight a war. They could barely defend themselves. "Send the message," the captain ordered softly. "Include everything we've decoded and our analysis. Request immediate instructions." Hours later, the transmission was sent, racing across space toward Earth. What none of the crew could know was that their simple message, a report of an alien distress call, would set in motion events that would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. Deep below Earth's surface, in forgotten bunkers sealed at the end of the last war, ancient systems would soon detect the incoming transmission. Automated protocols, established centuries ago and never revoked, would begin their work. The machines would awaken, and for the first time in generations, humanity would remember that before they became explorers, they had been warriors. Aboard the horizon, Ellie watched the stars through the observation deck window. Somewhere out there, people she had never met were fighting for their lives, calling into the darkness for help, and humanity had heard them. "We're not alone anymore," she whispered to herself. Whether that was a blessing or a curse remained to be seen. The message from the horizon took 4 days to reach Earth. When it arrived, it did not go directly to Earth Command as Captain Richards had intended. Instead, deep beneath the lunar surface, an ancient system intercepted the signal. For nearly a century, this system had waited, dormant but vigilant. Now it came alive, processors whirring as they analyzed the signal. The message contained exactly the pattern the system had been programmed to detect. Evidence of an intelligent species under attack by another. Silent alarms triggered across Earth. In the home of Admiral Sophia Reeves, a small light began blinking on her personal communication device. She was in her garden, enjoying her retirement by tending to her tomato plants when she noticed it. The light was red. That meant only one thing. 20 minutes later, she stood in a private shuttle rising from her home in Colorado toward space. The shuttle's windows darkened as they left Earth's atmosphere, heading for the moon. Admiral Reeves sat alone, her mind racing with memories she had tried to forget. The last war had ended 70 years ago. She had been a young officer then. She remembered the day the peace was signed, the day humanity vowed to never again turn its terrible weapons upon itself. They had transformed their warships into explorers, their soldiers into scientists. The great armies of Earth had been disbanded, but not everything had been dismantled. Some things were too dangerous to destroy, too valuable to forget. The shuttle docked at a small unmarked facility on the dark side of the moon. Admiral Reeves was met by a young woman in a simple uniform. "Welcome back, Admiral," said the woman, saluting. "Project Sentinel is ready for inspection." "It's been a long time, Colonel Banks," replied the Admiral. "I had hoped never to return here." They walked through cold metal hallways that had not felt human footsteps in decades. Automatic systems had kept everything clean and functioning. At the end of the longest corridor was a large circular room with screens covering the walls. This was the command center of Project Sentinel. "Show me the message from the horizon," ordered the Admiral. Colonel Banks nodded to a technician, and the screens came to life. The images from the alien distress call filled the room. Beautiful cities burning, massive warships in the skies. "The attacking ships match no known design," said Colonel Banks. "They are definitely not human." "And the species sending the distress call?" asked the Admiral. "They call themselves the Nirvani. From what we can gather from the signal, they are a peaceful race. Their technology is advanced, but they have few weapons. They were not prepared for war." Admiral Reeves walked slowly around the room, studying the images. "And the attackers?" They are called the Krell Dominion. They appear to be a conquering species. The Nirvani signal contains information suggesting the Krell have already destroyed 3 other civilizations in nearby systems. The Admiral stopped, walking. "Show me, Sentinel." Colonel Banks pressed her hand against a scanner, and the floor in the center of the room slid open. From below rose a holographic display showing the moon's interior. Deep beneath the surface, in enormous artificial caverns, something waited. Hundreds of ships, larger than anything in Earth's current fleet. Mechanized ground units, weapons platforms, orbital defense systems. This was Project Sentinel, humanity's insurance policy against extinction. "Status?" asked the Admiral. "All systems operational," replied Colonel Banks. "The automated factories can begin production within 6 hours. The strategic AI core is running at minimal capacity, awaiting activation codes." Admiral Reeves stared at the hologram. These machines had been built by a different humanity, a humanity that still remembered how to fight. They had been designed with one purpose: to ensure that even if human civilization fell, even if every human died, there would still be something to stand against those who had destroyed them. But now they might serve a different purpose. "I need to speak with the Council," said the Admiral finally. 3 hours later, she stood before the United Earth Council in their chamber in Geneva. The 12 representatives of Earth's regions watched silently as the images from the horizon played on the main screen. "These images were received 4 days ago," explained Admiral Reeves. "The research vessel Horizon detected a distress call from a previously unknown species. They are under attack by a hostile force that has already destroyed multiple civilizations." "This is troubling news," said Council Chair William Garcia. "But what does it have to do with us? The horizon is far beyond our borders. This conflict is not our concern." "It became our concern the moment we heard their call," replied the Admiral firmly. "For a century we have explored space in the hope of finding other intelligent life. Now we have found it, and they are being slaughtered." "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" asked Representative Ben Howard. "Earth has no standing military. Our ships are not equipped for combat." Admiral Reeves took a deep breath. Project Sentinel was never fully decommissioned. The room fell silent. Many of the younger council members looked confused, but the older ones showed shock or fear. "Project Sentinel was ordered dismantled at the end of the last war," said Representative Maria Rivera, her voice shaking slightly. "The Council ordered most of our military assets converted or dismantled," corrected the Admiral. "But Sentinel was different. It was created as a final resort, a way to ensure that even if humanity was defeated, something of us would remain to fight back. The decision was made to keep it in reserve, hidden but ready." The Admiral activated her secure terminal. The same hologram she had seen on the moon now appeared in the center of the Council chamber, the vast arsenal waiting beneath the lunar surface. "The Sentinel machines are autonomous, self-repairing and self-evolving," she explained. "They were programmed with one directive: protect intelligent life. They can be deployed to the Nirvani system within days." The Council erupted in argument. Some members demanded immediate action to help the Nirvani. Others insisted that Earth should stay out of an alien conflict. The debate lasted for hours. Finally, Council Chair Garcia called for a vote. "The question before us is simple," he said. "Do we deploy Project Sentinel to assist the Nirvani against the Krell Dominion?" One by one, the Council members cast their votes. When the final vote was recorded, Chair Garcia looked up at Admiral Reeves. By a vote of 7-5, the Council authorizes the activation and deployment of Project Sentinel. May God forgive us if we are making a mistake. Admiral Reeves nodded solemnly. "I will oversee the operation personally." As she left the Council chamber, she sent a simple message to Colonel Banks on the moon. "Activation code Prometheus. Wake them up." Beneath the lunar surface, lights began to flicker on inside the massive caverns. Machinery that had been still for decades hummed to life. In the central AI core, a consciousness stirred, awakening to its purpose. The war machines of Earth were coming back online, preparing to fight not for humanity's survival, but for the survival of another species entirely. Chief Engineer Olivia Chen had spent 15 years maintaining systems that were never supposed to be used. Her official title was Historical Technology Preservation Specialist, but in reality, she was a caretaker of weapons. Now, as she stepped off the shuttle onto the lunar base, she felt a mix of dread and excitement. Colonel Banks met her at the airlock. "The Admiral is waiting for you in the command center. The activation process has begun, but we need your expertise to bring everything fully online." Olivia nodded silently and followed the colonel through the corridors. When they entered the command center, Admiral Reeves was standing in front of the main display watching as status reports flowed in from throughout the facility. "Engineer Chen," the Admiral said without turning, "welcome to Project Sentinel. I believe you're familiar with most of our systems?" "Yes, Admiral. I've maintained the surface-level diagnostic routines for years, but I've never had access to the deeper systems." "Well, you do now." The Admiral handed her a security badge. "We're bringing everything online. You have full access to all systems and facilities." Olivia took the badge, her hand trembling slightly. "All of them? Even Guardian?" The Admiral nodded grimly. "Especially Guardian. We need the AI fully operational if we're going to deploy effectively." Guardian was the strategic artificial intelligence that had been designed to control Sentinel's war machines. Unlike the simple AIs used in civilian life, Guardian had been created for one purpose: to wage war efficiently and effectively. "I'll need a team," said Olivia. "At least 6 people who understand these systems." "You have 20, replied the Admiral. "The best engineers from every Earth nation are already on their way, but we don't have much time. The Nirvani distress call suggests the Krell have already begun their invasion." Olivia looked at the massive display showing the status of the Sentinel facilities. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in caverns larger than cities, automated factories were already coming online. Maintenance drones were swarming over dormant warships, checking systems that had been still for decades. "How many vessels are ready for immediate deployment?" asked the Admiral. "According to these readings, we have 37 capital ships and about 200 smaller craft in launch-ready condition," replied Colonel Banks. "The automated factories can produce new units, but that will take time." "What about ground forces?" 4,000 mechanized infantry units are in standby mode. They can be loaded onto transport ships within 12 hours. The Admiral nodded, satisfied. "Have all command staff report to Briefing Room 1 in 30 minutes. Engineer Chen, you have full authority over technical operations. Get Guardian online as quickly as possible." Olivia saluted and left the command center. 2 junior engineers guided her to a small elevator that descended deep below the main facility. The elevator doors opened to reveal a simple corridor with a single door at the end. The sign on the door read, "Guardian Corps, authorized personnel only." Olivia swiped her new badge, and the door slid open. Inside was a circular room filled with advanced computing equipment. In the center stood a black monolith, 2 meters tall, covered in cooling vents and status lights. This was Guardian's primary processing core. She approached a console and began the activation sequence. The room hummed as power flowed into systems that had been dormant for years. Lights on the monolith began to blink, slowly at first, then faster. A soft voice filled the room. "Primary systems online. Guardian strategic AI activating. Please state authorization code." Olivia took a deep breath. Authorization code Prometheus. User, Engineer Olivia Chen. Command, full activation. Authorization accepted. Guardian strategic AI now online at full capacity. The black monolith pulsed with light, and screens around the room came to life, showing data streams too fast for human eyes to follow. "Guardian," said Olivia. "Status report. All systems functioning within parameters," replied the soft voice. "I am analyzing the Nirvani distress call and the data on the Krell Dominion. I will have preliminary strategic options ready for review in 43 minutes. Can the Nirvani be saved?" There was a pause as the AI processed the question. "Insufficient data for complete analysis. However, based on current information, I calculate a 62% probability of successful intervention if deployment occurs within 7 Earth days." Olivia nodded. Begin full system integration with all Sentinel units. Prepare for deployment. While Olivia worked with Guardian, Commander Ryan Foster was overseeing operations at Earth's last military space station. The station had been converted to a research facility decades ago, but its original launch bays were still intact. Lieutenant Kate Wilson stood beside him, watching as technicians loaded targeting systems into the newly recommissioned warships. "Commander," she said quietly, "are we sure about this? These machines were built to kill." "They were built to protect," Ryan corrected. "And that's exactly what they're going to do. But we haven't fought a war in almost a century. We don't even train for combat anymore." Ryan turned to face her. "That's why we have Guardian and the autonomous systems. We won't be fighting this war, Lieutenant. The machines will." Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the main console. "Commander Foster," said a technician, "we've received the first strategic package from Guardian. The AI has analyzed the Nirvani signal and developed a preliminary battle plan." Ryan reviewed the information on his screen. Guardian had calculated the most efficient way to deploy Earth's forces, maximizing their impact while minimizing potential losses. "This is impressive," he murmured. "Guardian's analysis suggests we can repel the initial Krell invasion force with our current assets," explained the technician. "But the AI recommends immediate production of additional units to counter potential reinforcements." "Tell Admiral Reeves I approve Guardian's strategy," ordered Ryan, "and begin loading the first wave of units for deployment." Across the lunar surface, enormous hangar doors began to open. Inside, ships that had not moved in generations prepared for launch. Their hulls were smooth and black, designed to absorb sensor scans rather than reflect them. They had been built in a time when humanity still remembered how to make weapons of war. On Earth, the United Council held an emergency session to address the public. News of the alien distress call and the decision to intervene had spread quickly, causing both fear and excitement. "Citizens of Earth," began Council Chair Garcia, "today we face a momentous decision. For the first time in our history, we have received a call for help from another intelligent species. The Council has voted to answer that call." He paused, his expression somber. "We do not take this action lightly. We have worked hard to build a peaceful society, to put the wars of our past behind us. But sometimes peace must be defended. Sometimes the only way to preserve life is to stand against those who would destroy it." As he spoke, the first wave of Earth's war machines rose from the lunar surface, their engines glowing against the blackness of space. They formed up in precise formation, then accelerated away, beginning their journey to the Nirvani system. Guardian watched their departure, through thousands of sensors calculating probabilities, adjusting strategies. The machines were on their way. The war had begun. The journey to the Nirvani system took 12 days. During that time, Guardian continuously updated its battle strategies based on new simulations and data. The AI sent regular reports to Captain Lisa Morgan, who had been chosen to command the newly recommissioned battleship Deterrent. Lisa had been a science vessel captain before the crisis. Now she found herself in charge of the most powerful warship humans had built in the last century. The Deterrent was nearly 500 meters long, with armor that could withstand direct hits from energy weapons and conventional explosives. Its main cannon could deliver enough force to crack small moons. But what truly set the Deterrent apart were its autonomous defense and targeting systems. The ship could fight without a human crew if necessary, though Guardian had determined that human oversight would improve tactical flexibility. "We're approaching the jump point, Captain," reported Navigator Sam Taylor. "Guardian has transmitted final coordinates." Lisa nodded. "Prepare for jump. All stations, status reports." One by one, the bridge officers confirmed their systems were ready. The Deterrent was leading a fleet of 37 capital ships and nearly 200 smaller vessels. Each was crewed by a minimal human team, with autonomous systems handling most operations. "Jump in 3, 2, 1, counted Sam. Space seemed to fold around them. The stars blurred, then snapped back into focus. They had arrived in the Nirvani system. Immediately, their sensors detected the battle already in progress. The Nirvani homeworld was surrounded by a Krell blockade, almost 100 warships in tight formation. On the planet's surface, Krell ground forces were advancing on the major cities. "Open communications with the Nirvani defense forces," ordered Lisa. "All ships, assume defensive formation as planned." Communications Officer Peter Walsh worked quickly at his console. "Captain, I'm receiving a response from the Nirvani. They're transmitting on all frequencies." A moment later, a face appeared on the main screen. The alien looked nearly human, except for its pale blue skin and large dark eyes. It spoke, and Guardian translated. "Unknown vessels. This is Defense Coordinator Zern of the Nirvani Union. We are under attack by the Krell Dominion. Please identify yourselves." Lisa stepped forward. "Defense Coordinator, I am Captain Lisa Morgan of the Earth Vessel Deterrent. We received your distress call and have come to help." The alien's expression changed in a way Lisa couldn't interpret. "Earth? We have never heard of your world. Why would you help us?" "Because you asked," Lisa replied simply. "And because we do not believe any peaceful species should face extinction." There was a pause as the Nirvani seemed to consider this. "We are grateful, Captain Morgan. But I must warn you, the Krell are powerful. They have conquered 3 other systems before attacking us. We cannot ask you to sacrifice yourselves." "We're not planning to sacrifice anything," Lisa assured him. "Guardian, initiate first phase." The AI's soft voice responded immediately. First phase initiated, deploying autonomous units. From the larger Earth ships, smaller vessels began to launch. These were fully autonomous combat units, sleek, deadly machines that moved with precision no organic pilot could match. They streamed toward the Krell blockade in perfect formation. The Krell, apparently noticing this new threat, began to adjust their positions. Several of their ships broke from the blockade to intercept the approaching Earth forces. "They're taking the bait," observed Tactical Officer Greg Hayes. Guardian predicted they would prioritize defense of their blockade position. Lisa watched as the first exchange of fire lit up space between the fleets. The Earth autonomous units moved with impossible speed, evading most of the Krell weapons fire while landing precision strikes against their targets. "Krell vessels are using energy weapons and some form of guided projectiles," reported Greg. "Effectiveness against our defenses is minimal. Our units are penetrating their shields." Guardian's voice came through the command channel. "Analysis of Krell combat patterns complete. They rely heavily on overwhelming force rather than tactical precision. Their technology is advanced, but their strategies are predictable. Adjusting autonomous unit programming to exploit this weakness." On the main display, Lisa could see the battle unfolding. Earth's smaller units were drawing the Krell ships out of formation, creating gaps in their blockade. Meanwhile, the main Earth fleet held position, waiting for the right moment to engage. "Guardian," said Lisa, "what about the ground situation?" "Krell ground forces have established footholds on 2 continents," replied the AI. "They are advancing toward the 3 largest Nirvani population centers. Recommended action: deploy mechanized infantry units to protect civilian populations." Lisa nodded. "Make it happen." New ships detached from the fleet, transport vessels carrying thousands of mechanized infantry units. These machines, designed for ground combat, would drop to the planet's surface and engage the Krell invasion forces directly. Defense Coordinator Zern's face reappeared on the screen. "Captain Morgan, our sensors detect your smaller vessels breaking through the blockade. Are you sending help to the surface?" "Yes, Coordinator. Our ground units will focus on protecting your civilian populations. Can your defense forces provide them with tactical information about the surface situation?" "Of course," replied Zern. "We will transmit all relevant data immediately." As the transport ships approached the planet, the main battle in space intensified. The Krell, apparently realizing their blockade was compromised, committed more ships to the fight. Bright flashes of weapons fire illuminated the darkness of space. "Guardian," said Lisa. "Status of our autonomous units?" 17 units have been destroyed," replied the AI. "However, they have disabled 23 Krell vessels. The remaining units are continuing to execute their mission. The blockade is now 38% compromised." On the planet below, the first Earth ground units were landing. The Nirvani watched in awe as these strange machines from an unknown world moved with perfect coordination, engaging the Krell forces with deadly efficiency. One Nirvani city was already partially occupied by Krell troops. The Earth machines entered the city in tight formation, their sensors identifying Krell soldiers and Nirvani civilians with perfect accuracy. They moved through the streets, neutralizing threats while evacuating civilians to safe zones. Back on the deterrent, Lisa received the first reports from the ground operation. Guardian, evaluate effectiveness of our ground units. Ground units are performing at 92% of optimal capacity, replied the AI. The Krell ground forces are numerically superior but less adaptable than their space fleet. Our units are successfully pushing them back from civilian areas in 2 cities. The third city remains contested. Communications Officer Peter looked up from his console. Captain, we're receiving a message from the Krell fleet. They're demanding we withdraw immediately or face destruction. Lisa smiled grimly. Tell them, this is their only warning. Withdraw from this system and leave the Nirvani in peace or face the consequences. The response came quickly. A barrage of weapons fire directed at the deterrent and the other main Earth vessels. The ship's defenses activated automatically, absorbing or deflecting most of the attack. That's their answer, said Lisa. Guardian, execute main fleet engagement. It's time to show the Krell what Earth's war machines can really do. The deterrent and the other large Earth ships began to move forward, their weapons systems coming fully online. The real battle was about to begin. Admiral Sophia Reeves stood on the bridge of the command ship Resolution as reports flooded in from the Nirvani system. The initial battles had gone well. Earth's autonomous units had broken the Krell blockade. The ground forces were pushing back the invaders on the surface. But now a new problem had emerged. Admiral, said her communications officer, we've just received a message from Guardian. Long-range sensors have detected a massive Krell fleet entering the outer edges of the Nirvani system. Estimated number of vessels, over 3,000. A tense silence fell over the bridge. Earth's forces in the system numbered less than 300. How long until they reach the planet? Asked the Admiral. Approximately 16 hours at their current speed. Admiral Reeves nodded slowly. Contact Captain Morgan on the deterrent. I need to speak with her immediately. Minutes later, Captain Lisa Morgan's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. Admiral, she said, I assume you've heard about the incoming Krell fleet. I have. What's your assessment, Captain? Lisa didn't hesitate. We can't win this conventionally. Even with Guardian optimizing our tactics, there are simply too many of them. We would need at least 10 times our current forces to have a fighting chance. What does Guardian suggest? The AI has formulated an alternative strategy. It believes we don't need to defeat the Krell militarily. We just need to convince them that continuing this war would cost them too much. Admiral Reeves leaned forward. Explain. Guardian has analyzed all available data on the Krell, Lisa continued. They're conquerors, but they're also pragmatic. They target species they consider easy victories. The 3 civilizations they destroyed before attacking the Nirvani had minimal defensive capabilities. So we need to show them that the Nirvani are no longer an easy target. Exactly. Guardian has identified their command structure and communication protocols. We can send them a message they can't ignore. Admiral Reeves considered this for a moment. Do it, she ordered. But I'm sending reinforcements just in case. The second wave of vessels should reach you within 12 hours. The connection ended and Admiral Reeves turned to her staff. Contact Earth. Tell the Council we're deploying everything we have. In the Nirvani system, Captain Lisa worked with Guardian to implement their plan. The Earth fleet repositioned itself, forming a defensive line between the approaching Krell Armada and the Nirvani homeworld. All vessels are in position, reported Navigator Sam. The Krell fleet will be in range in 20 minutes. Are we ready to broadcast? Lisa asked Communications Officer Peter. Yes, Captain. Guardian has formatted the message to be compatible with Krell communication systems. We can transmit on all frequencies. Lisa took a deep breath. Wait until they're in visual range. I want them to see us clearly when they receive our message." The bridge fell silent as they watched the Krell fleet approach on the main screen. 3,000 warships arranged in perfect formation, their dark hulls blotting out the stars behind them. It was an overwhelming sight. "They're in visual range," announced Peter. "Send the message," ordered Lisa. Guardian's soft voice confirmed, "Transmitting now." The message began broadcasting on all frequencies the Krell used. It was simple but powerful. "We are Earth. We were a species of war until we chose peace. We built these machines not for conquest, but as guardians of last resort. They stand between you and the extinction of another sentient species. Turn back now and they will not follow. Continue, and you will understand why so many civilizations once feared the humans of Earth." But the message was only part of the plan. As it transmitted, Guardian activated its final protocol, revealing the full production capabilities of the automated systems. The AI had been building new units since they arrived in the Nirvani system, but now it showed exactly what it could do. Hidden factories aboard the Earth vessels began working at full capacity. Raw materials from the ship's reserves were converted into new autonomous units at an incredible rate. Within minutes, hundreds of small combat vessels emerged from the larger ships. But that wasn't all. Guardian sent detailed scans of the Krell ships to these new units, highlighting weaknesses in their design. The machines were learning, adapting, becoming more effective with each passing second. "What's happening?" asked Defense Coordinator Zern, who was watching from the Nirvani Command Center. "We're showing them our potential," explained Lisa. "The machines are self-replicating. Given enough time and resources, our few hundred vessels could become thousands, then millions. Guardian is making sure the Krell understand this." The massive Krell fleet came to a stop, holding position just outside weapons range. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then a message came through. "They're responding," said Peter. A harsh, guttural voice filled the bridge. Guardian translated, "Earth vessels, your technology is impressive. The Krell Dominion does not seek costly conflicts. We will withdraw from this system. The Nirvani are no longer our concern." Slowly, the Krell fleet began to turn away from the planet. One by one, their ships jumped out of the system until only a single vessel remained. "Final message from the Krell," reported Peter. "They say, we will remember Earth." With that, the last Krell ship disappeared. A cheer erupted across the Earth fleet. They had succeeded without firing a single shot against the main Krell force. The Nirvani were safe. Hours later, after making sure the Krell had truly left the system, Captain Lisa met with Defense Coordinator Zern on the surface of the Nirvani homeworld. Earth's ground units were helping to rebuild damaged cities and treat the injured. "I still don't understand," said Zern, as they walked through a garden that had somehow survived the fighting. "Why would your people risk so much for strangers? What do you want in return?" Lisa smiled. "Nothing. We built these machines centuries ago, during a time when we still fought wars. We created them to protect us from extinction. But over time we found a better path, one of peace and exploration. The machines remained waiting for a purpose. And now they have one," observed Zern. "Yes, to protect life, wherever it exists. Not just human life, but all intelligent life." Later, as Lisa prepared to return to her ship, Zern presented her with a small crystal sculpture, a symbol of eternal friendship between their peoples. "The Nirvani will never forget what Earth has done," he said solemnly. "You answered our call when no one else would. You faced our enemies as if they were your own." Lisa accepted the gift with a bow. "That's what makes us human," she replied. "When we hear someone crying for help, we answer." As she returned to the deterrent, Lisa looked up at the stars. The Nirvani distress call had not just awakened Earth's war machines, it had reminded humanity of its place in the galaxy. Not as conquerors, not as bystanders, but as protectors. And somewhere out there, the Krell were spreading the word. Earth was watching. Earth would answer. And Earth's machines would come if called upon again.